New Plastic Command Squad. Is that actually still coming? When they announced that, like 6 months ago? Hey guys, welcome to another Lords of War Games and Hobbies video. I'm Chris, and I'm here with my buddy Empty Chair. Jay will be back, don't worry, very soon. And we're learning our lessons here a little bit on this channel. We're going to make sure that we have a little bit of a backlog of videos so that we don't get in the situation where we have to do these little solo talks. Because I don't think they're as fun. They're not as fun to film, and I don't think they're as fun to watch either because they're less funny and more descriptive, which isn't necessarily what you guys want. I think you want some of the jokes and memes and all that sort of stuff, right? And today I just wanted to do a quick little Age of Darkness market update, if you will, and talk a little bit about the previews we've seen and where the game's at, how it's selling, that sort of stuff. And keep in mind, I always preface this, while I try to have a broad view of things, I talk to some content creators, have my connections at Games Workshop from when I worked there. I know a lot of other shop owners in the area. It is relatively worldwide, a very small view of the hobby. So if your area is different, don't take personal offense. Rejoice in the fact that it's different. I think it's cool that we have our differences locally. But so where are we at? So before the preview, where are we at? Age of Darkness is a very strange game to talk about because, or Horus, Heresy, whatever you want to call it, because it goes through these periods of insane popularity and then dips off, not to nothing, but like, if you were like, is this person alive? You'd say yes, but like, we're having a hard time telling if they are or not. It's almost not a coma, but it's close to a coma. And I feel like, so you had this great launch almost 2 years ago now when they redid everything, right? So you had an official launch for the new Age of Darkness, big box set. They did a beautiful trailer, put a ton of money into it. They flew a bunch of influencers down and did all this demo and promo stuff. They spent a ton of money. They're like, oh, we got to get this right. And to be honest, that summer, it was the summer of Heresy, especially in our shop. Like selling stacks of dreadnoughts and leviathans and big box sets, and like everyone's playing, having a great time. And inevitably, you get to the point where like you kind of have this like almost denouement where it kind of drops off a little bit, peak and then the drop, right? And it eventually comes to, you're like, oh yeah, this isn't a game they're gonna put like 3 or 4 new kits out a month for. This is a game that you're lucky to get 1 kit a month. It's probably more like 1 kit every 2 months or so, right? And I wish it wasn't so much like this in terms of how we kind of operate in this business and how people's own hobbies are. I feel largely this way. Is everything is so tied to what's new and what's hot and what's coming out, because there's so much push online in terms of the videos you watch, all the marketing money that's just dumped online. Games Workshop controls so much of that fire hose spray out towards you guys. And it is hard to maintain focus on something, right? So people tend to slowly start to shift away from something and move on to something else, right? Part of that's organic, and then part of that is largely a construct of what sort of is happening with the marketing engine and that sort of thing, right? So if a game doesn't have like big releases coming out constantly, naturally the big company selling it isn't going to keep the spotlight on it necessarily, right? For us. So that's always been a part of the problem I find with some of these like secondary Games Workshop games, and Age of Darkness it definitely falls into this camp. When there's not stuff being released for it, it tends to go through these dry patches, right? Where you might not get much sales for a little while. It really relies on the dedicated people that are playing it and love the setting. I always call it a historical game, and I think it really is it is literally a historical game for 40K. It's 40K's historical game, but it plays, and even the people that play it like a historical game. There has to be almost like a even bigger buy-in, if you know what I mean, like in terms of the narrative and the story. People aren't playing it because it's necessarily the best rule set or whatever. It's because they like the stories and the models feel like something more than just what they are. So, for some reason I can't really explain. It's kind of a magical thing. Games Workshop has this because of the 30 years of stories they've written. When you paint a when you paint a Space Marine green, it means something, right? What shade of green did you use? Is it Dark Angel or Salamander? And when you're playing Horus Heresy, there's even more of that story and meaning oozing into that Space Marine, I feel like. And the people that play it and keep playing it throughout the year, I think they get that. And those communities tend to be pretty tight, and they tend to stick around. It's not a huge amount of people, but it's there, and it doesn't really go away, which is why I said, like, you have to, like, really pay attention to it, because you might not know it's there unless you kind of really look for it, right? You're not going to see them showing up every week and playing games at your hobby shop. Like, they're not going to necessarily have, like, a night or whatever, but usually those groups are really dedicated and really good at organizing themselves, and organizing leagues and games and narratives, and it's pretty impressive. So let's fast forward to now. So we actually had a big thing we didn't really talk about too much, which was the Solar Auxilia release. How did that go? Well, I think I can speak for everyone and say it was a little underwhelming, which I was disappointed by. I think the models were brilliant. I was so happy to see that they were releasing a second faction in plastic. I'm like, wow, this is going to be so good for the game. And it kind of, I don't want to call it a flop, because I don't think it was a flop. But I think a lot of retailers thought it would sell better than it did. And maybe that's on us and them, thinking, like, not realizing that the kind of person that's going to buy that historical game product, it's not necessarily going to appeal to, like, your 40K player that plays Astra Militarum. It's a whole different type of buy-in, right? So I think it might be just adjusting that mentality from a sales perspective, and trying to figure out what is the pipeline exactly into Age of Darkness, and kind of trying to figure that out more, right? It tends to be more veteran hobbyists. People are looking for more continuity in their rules, stuff that's not changing week to week. There's not really meta watch for Age of Darkness, right? Like, it's like, people like Contemptors are strong. They're strong. They were strong, and they are strong. They haven't patched Contemptor Dreadnoughts. And that's something that whether you like it or hate it, it's if you put the game down for 4 months and come back to it, it's something you can expect to be there, right? So there is something nice and peaceful about that. As I get older and I have more responsibilities, I don't begrudge people that love the fast-paced nature of the changes in some of these modern war games, but there is something really appealing that draws me to games that tend to have more of a slower approach to building their rules out. Because like, realistically, like, if I can get a couple games of Horus Heresy in the year, I feel very fortunate. And I would be the same thing for me for 40K. And the experience of playing both of those games would be very different, in the sense that, like, I would have to prepare a lot more for the 40K game. Not that it's a harder game. I think it's, like, an easier game to play. But I would have to check out, okay, what FAQs are out? What are the points changes been like? What's the current match play rules people are using? There's just, like, a little bit more kind of, like, homework, I guess, involved in getting ready for that game. Whereas Age of Darkness, I'm like, I could just go, okay, when did I play last? Okay, yeah, I pretty much remember how to play this game. It just helped that I did play, like, all the old editions of 40K, so I kind of, the rules are kind of mapped out in my head there, which is nice too. So Solar Auxilia come out. They kind of don't do as amazing. It's not a gangbusters release. They sell okay. And then we have a preview for AdMech a few months back, which they kind of just show the symbol off. And I'm thinking, like, this has got to be coming maybe late this year. And then this preview last week, they show, boom, they're coming, like, basically soon. It's probably going to be a summer thing. And you have to think that this is absolutely fantastic for people that love Age of Darkness, right? My question is, and I really hope this is the case, how many new players can this pull in from other games, right? How many players that play 40K are going to go, oh, this is the army I was waiting for Age of Darkness and Plastic. Now I'm in. That's really my big question for this, is where are the because they really need new players to filter into the Age of Darkness. That's what we need. Because, like, at the end of the day, a new plastic AdMech army is amazing. You're going to sell it a lot to people that like have their Legion armies and never wanted to shell out for the pretty much entirely resin AdMech army that would have been thousands of dollars. Or maybe they didn't want to go to the, you know, look to the east and, you know, import some fakes or whatever. Because there's a ton of that out there. At the end of the day, this is on such a lower shelf for people, right? So it brings the cost so much down that you can, like, you know, you can get a couple of those new box sets. The box set is incredible. The new box set that has, like, the Thalaxes, the transport train, the Tech Thralls, and the Castellax are all in the box. You could buy a couple of those and literally have an AdMech army for Age of Darkness. And you have like everything you really want other than the Thanatar, who's coming out separately. That's pretty awesome. And it's probably going to be pretty inexpensive because the Age of Darkness stuff is priced pretty well, actually, overall. The models, they look incredible. They look like the Forge World ones, but in plastic. Like what more could you want? So I'm cautiously optimistic about how this will do, but I'm also like, now we've had the Solar Auxilia launch, which I thought looked awesome, and it didn't sell as well. I'm more concerned now. I'm like, oh, is this an Age of Darkness problem, and not necessarily the miniatures that are coming out for it? And how, like, are people just less likely to buy the models because they're in like this separate historical game? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm kind of trying to rethink about how I think about the game and how I sell it, because it is a completely unique experience. It tends to attract different types of people, and it doesn't seem to have the same types of on-ramps that a 40K does, intentionally so, right? Games Workshop isn't necessarily releasing this product for a 15-year-old new hobbyist. That's not necessarily the first game they want you to play, right? Because the rules are bulky. There's less players to play with. There's less model variety. Quite frankly, the price isn't as high. So, you know, let's be real. They want to make more money off you, right? They want you buying 40K or AOS, right? So, what do you guys think about this? The Age of Darkness, if you play right now, I actually want to hear from you if you don't play. Are you interested, but you haven't got into it yet? And what are you waiting for? What are you looking for in Age of Darkness product? My big thing with Age of Darkness is always going to be the same thing when I look at my Flames of War wall, when I look at Bolt Action. There are finite amount of things they can release for the game. And I don't personally see that as a problem, because I'm very much of the fact that, like, things can be complete and that's okay. Like, if I've collected all of the Legion, like, if I've built the Legion army that I'm happy with, it's 10,000 points, I've painted everything I wanted to paint, I'm not looking for a new release. I've finished that. And now I'm going to think about what I'm going to work on next, right? And I still play with that and enjoy that. But I don't think everything has to be an open-ended book forever. But I do realize and do respect and understand that in the current market and how things work, things don't necessarily follow that pattern, right? People are focused on what's constantly coming out, what's being updated, what's being supported. And I wonder if that's a part of the thought process with people that are looking at Age of Darkness and saying, okay, that's cool, but like, I'm not going to get anything new for a long time, so like, I'm not as interested. Oh yeah, let me know. What do you think? And if you do play, do these new releases appeal to you, or do you already have everything and you're just like, oh cool, this might get some new people playing? What are your thoughts? Let me know. If you like these sorts of videos, they're usually a bit more fun because Jay's here being snarky with me. And you can like and subscribe, and that way you'll get updated when they come out next week with back to our normal format. If you really like these types of videos, you can support us on Patreon, which we really appreciate. And once we hit our first membership goal, we will be doing Patreon exclusive sit and talks and question answering periods and stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. Until next time, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. Cheers.